I didn't. Oh god, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
you're good.
You.
Good.
I feel like I did this without your consent. Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a VeVe OMI update video. Say hello to my co-hosts, Crypto Rain, Doctor of Stuff, and our wonderful guest, Crypto Cosmo. Everyone say hello to Dashi. Hello, Dashi. Commenting, liking, subscribing is a free way to help support the channel. Non-free ways are Patreon, especially the super thanks button down below. Guys, before we get started, I don't know if you guys know that. How raise of hands, how many of y'all have been to Europe for a significant amount of time?
10 days.
All right, my man. So I don't know if you know this, but I don't think I could ever eat, at least in the UK again. Because do you guys know how they wash their dishes?
No.
They have like this big, like almost like a round litter box that they put a bunch of water in, right? And they put like all their dirty dishes in there. So it's kind of like clean at the beginning. And then they start scrubbing their dishes and they soap it up. And then they put it in the dish drying rack. They keep the dirty water that's in there. They don't change the water. And they don't rinse their freaking dishes off. They scrub it up and they put it in the dish drying rack. So that's what I have learned today on my journey. I went down an interesting rabbit hole. How are y'all doing?
Fantastic.
Good. Yeah. Great, man. Great.
I haven't eaten any soap with my food lately, so I guess I'll have to go to the UK.
All right. So let's look at today's messages here. We have things to go over. Marvel logo and stuff that has happened with that. Maserati partnership. SEC versus the Fly Fish Club, which I think they kind of settled. Comms and crypto bounty for Xenomorph. Crafting for Blind Box. Then we got Binance listing a token called Nero. Emoji doing a burn as well. I guess we could start with the burns that they've been doing. So do you want to start with community burns, or should we start with the Ecomi burns?
Wait, the Ecomi burns. Which Ecomi burns? Just like in what Ecomi has burned?
Yeah, like today. I guess we'll start with that. So today, Ecomi had announced. Well, Ecomi's been very busy lately, but Ecomi had announced today. Why is Twitter saying that I'm live? That's weird. Anyway, 9 hours ago, they say to kick off the new era of OMI utility, the Ecomi team has permanently removed the 221 billion OMI tokens from the reserve and vault wallets, ensuring that they will never enter the circulating supply. This is something that Fudders was like a major talking point, saying like, oh, I bet that what David and Dan will do is they'll put that in the circulating supply eventually so that they can go on and extract more money out of the community. They can continue dumping on everyone. Now they obviously the Fudders can't talk about that. I think their main talking point now is saying that, oh, it was never going to enter circulating supply anyway, so it doesn't matter. Obviously, they backpedaled on that. I do think they missed an opportunity here. I think this would be really fun to have like a burn party like once a week. I don't know why they had to do this all at once. But burning 20 billion OMI every week for 10 weeks would have been really heckin' cool. What do you guys think?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, there's an interesting point that I'll make with Foster doing his AMA just recently. Doc had asked, or somebody had asked a question just about the burning mechanism and why the circulating supply had changed on like CoinMarketCap. It was you, Doc. And so when they do this burning, as they roll it up, and I don't know all the technical language on it, but it changes the circulating supply briefly as those tokens are rolled up. And so I can imagine it really kind of messing with the circulating supply numbers if you did it for 10 weeks, it'd be like 10 weeks of just like people not knowing where the circulating supply really is at and what it's reflecting. So that's something to keep in mind. Maybe they just wanted to simplify it and just like get that done, get the roll up out of the way, and then beyond to be able to reflect correct numbers from there so that they could have more credibility on the exchanges. So,
yeah. So be advised, for everyone that doesn't know, that happens with every token that has multiple layers and is across multiple chains. So for example, if you have your OMI on like GoChain and you go and you convert it to ERC20, that it locks up the amount on GoChain, and then it mints newer tokens over on ERC20. So that was actually a Fudder talking point like last week, saying like, oh, they're creating new tokens, and it's just like, well, that's just what happens with every single company with every single token that has multiple chains. But obviously, like we said, that'll never go into circulation. So good point.
And can I just say, right, like, and shout out to VeVe Viral. Like, I love VeVe Viral so much. But like he brought this up because Ecomi posted that, and then someone showed a snapshot of like underneath their post, right, of 278 billion on CoinGecko, and then 270, 1 billion, and basically they're like, yeah, like Ecomi can just add tokens to the circulating supply whenever. And then like VeVe Viral is like, oh, like, is this true? And like there's these knee-jerk reactions, and I'm like, there's so many times where people who have no idea what the crap they are talking about just shoot their mouth off, right, and cause all this panic. And like my first question is like, why does someone just initially just believe this random person on here that's saying this, right? And so that's why I'm like, I think it's important to just get this answer straight from the team. And then Puddin' Cheeks came on and he basically talked about that, right? As we're removing the tokens from the vault and the reserve wallets, it's got to go through the IMX bridge roll up to then be sent directly to the burn wallet. But it was doing it in batches, right? And so they would be removed from IMX for a second, and then it would be burned. But like during that time, like there was a brief amount of time in which CoinGecko would then report them gone and then back and then gone, right? And where I'm going with this is it's just like one of the most important things. And I learned this, right? I'm at fault. Like when I had my knee-jerk reaction to the removal of the Matt Greening signature on the Bartons and Homer on Randy's stream, I like lost it, right? Like for like an hour. And as I'm talking over this hour, I like look and it's like back. And I'm like, yeah, maybe I should have taken a step back and reached out and asked the team and waited for a response, right, before I reacted. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is like I learned that, and hopefully people are starting to learn. It's just like, let's wait and get like responses from the team on questions like this, as opposed to listening to some rando, right, making some statement as a fact when like they don't even know what they're talking about, right? Like you can't just like add tokens to a circulating supply. Like you can't do that. Like there's the amount of tokens that are minted, and that's where I was like, this like doesn't make sense. Like I don't understand. Is this an API glitch or what was happening? And then it the signature meltdown. Man, if people had clips of that, it was bad. Like I look back on that, because
is it still up,
man,
or did we take it down?
Nostalgic to me. Like I really was. I was concerned because I'm like, you're altering NFTs, and I still said like, if that ever happens, like I am out, right? Like you can't do that type of stuff. Anyways, but so. Please don't just listen to randos and do some research, because even randos though can be right. I'll say that, right? But like just do a little bit of research or ask the team and wait for a response so that we get the official reason behind why certain things are happening, right? As opposed to someone's interpretation or their misunderstanding or lack of understanding of the complexities of the blockchain.
Very. I hope that's still up. I would love to see that. Yeah, let's.
I think they should be able to alter NFTs as long as they upgrade them, like with Ritmo.
Yeah.
That's an interesting debate, though, right? Because I mean, sure that works, but what if someone like, I mean, I can't think of anyone who thought, especially at the time, that wasn't cool. But what if someone is just like, I like this the way it is, and I don't like the fact that you can alter the image kind of without my consent type thing,
It is a risk when they upgrade it, right? If they give it additional capabilities, some people might decide they don't want those additional capabilities. But yeah, as long as they're like, if they're not taking away things, like signature could be a big deal. And if all of a sudden they're taking that away, that is a big deal. So yeah, it was just an error when they upgraded the things. I guess I don't remember what caused it, but they fixed it right away.
Yeah. I forget what, I think it was some type of update or whatever, and the signature didn't carry over.
Yeah, no, well, it like there was an update and it covered it, like actually, so the signature actually was still there, but there it like was covered or something like that by this like overlay, and then they fixed that, right? So yeah.
So anyway, speaking of the burns, we have a couple of community burns here. We have Emoji, and his didn't start yet, but let me read the message that he sent before. He has, along with him, I think Non-Fungible Wonderful, and a couple of other artists, I'm not really sure who they are, saying pre-saves are now open for Spotify users for the new single, About You, by Emoji, the first Listen to Burn OMI song. Listen to the world premiere this Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on D808 DJ, some random person's live stream. I'll just go to Emoji's thing. He's got it pinned up. Uncheck pre-save box. If you're not, I should share the email. Basically, whatever revenue that this person, that Emoji gets from this song, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever, I don't, DistroKid. I wish these people would pick like one place that everybody like knows. Like I understand like SoundCloud rappers and stuff. I wish you would just have one place where they would release it instead of having like 8 million different things. But either way, half the revenue that they get is going to go to buy OMI, straight to burn it. Now, with one artist, that's probably not going to be too huge. But when you have multiple artists doing it, I think that's really cool. What do you guys think about that? I think that's pretty awesome. I don't know if I would really change anything. What about y'all?
I think it's great. It's just more community burns. We talked a little bit about that on Monday. Cool. If people want to do that, I think it benefits the communities in a lot of ways. So cool. They'll probably get more traction because they're doing that, because they'll get some free advertisement. So it benefits those that are doing that and benefits the community. So cool.
How about you, Cosmo?
Yes. Yeah, as far as me, I love it. I love when the community gets engaged. They start thinking outside the box, trying to figure out ways to benefit the project. And like Rain was saying, I think it benefits them as well. And it's just another way for us all to engage as a community. So absolutely love it. I give them a bravo, and I look forward to listening to it, honestly. So
same. So outside of that particular OMI burn, we have another one. This one comes from Turtle Golf with the Golden Dragon Club, saying that he was looking to do an OMI burning giveaway, thinking that it could work something like this: a live OMI burning bidding process in the chat for who would burn the most, and whoever does gets the Metabrew beer delivered, US only, sorry Europeans. So basic bidding process, person who commits to sending the most OMI to burn to the burn wallet gets beer. I think this would have to not only be just US, I would say CONUS, but also 21 plus. Maybe there could be an excuse if you have like someone wanting to buy beer for their dad, but I think you would need parent signature or something for that. We'll have to work out those finer details. Would be fun, even if they only burned $1 worth of OMI. So everyone in the chat, y'all can go and do that if y'all want. We'll probably re-bring this up at the end of the stream as well, when there's more than just 100 people here. I have a few hundred, and we'll bring that up again. How do y'all like that? Is this good, or does this promote the sin of alcoholism, which I commit far too often?
I think it's fun that the community's putting that together. I think only the people interested in beer will be the ones participating in it. It's fun.
That's true. That's true.
Wait, I'm gonna jump in. Sorry, guys. I had to eat some dinner. This is the only time I'm gonna be able to eat it. Got a stacked day today. But so first of all, shout out to the Gold Dragon Club. Like they are consistently trying to offer utility. Like so like full disclosure, I bought a Gold Dragon off the market. You basically, one of the things that they offer is if you list your Gold Dragon for sale for $88,000, you're entered into a monthly raffle to win some OMI, right? So, and this is just out of the Gold Dragon, like just they want to build that community up. It's awesome. But then on top of that, they've done multiple giveaways. They've done stuff on my channel. They've done stuff on Superstar Money's channel. And so one of the things then that Turtle reached out and said is, so Metabrew is a Web3 brewing company that they did a raise with these NFTs, and were able to raise the funds to start this brewery, right? And now they're based out of Europe, and they ship like internationally. And so basically the deal is, right, is and like I just want to give it the credit it's due. But yes, so we'll see, but like we need to start like the auction, and it's just like, hey, I am willing to burn X amount of OMI, right? And that's the bid. Like I'd be willing to burn this amount of OMI, and that the winner at the end of the stream that is in the US and is over 21 and older, those are the two criteria. It's not even like you're gonna buy it for your dad or something like that. No, you gotta be 21 and older. They will fit as many 12-ounce cans of Meta Brew as will fit in a US what's the term, Randy?
Box?
Yeah,
Cardboard
but
box?
yeah, but it's a certain box. Like, so like as many of those will fit into this size box. I think it's important that people understand the size of the box. But yeah, the winner of, like, no matter how much it is, we're gonna be doing this for 6 weeks, and it's starting this episode. So please, people, put your and Randy, we'll probably have to bring it up again in the middle of it.
Yeah,
right?
we'll bring it up towards the end when there's a lot more people here.
Well, I'd say yeah, okay, right. Bring it up and do this bidding by the end of this stream. Whoever has the highest burn, they will win. But then you'll have to connect with Turtle, right? And with I believe it's OMI Daily Burn, and he'll verify that that OMI was burned, and then they will send it to your address. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing. And what I love and what we're starting to see more and more of, and why I love this community is it's just community driven stuff. Like, they're so passionate about this, and they're offering their own utility, and it's just like strengthens the community and just makes it more fun. And I love that. So shout out to Emoji, shout out to the Golden Dragon Club and Turtle, and just everyone out there creating different ways to burn some OMI and just get the community involved.
They and shout out to the Metabrew company for being able to do stuff like this as well. They had a really interesting concept where if you get their NFT, you're able to get shipped beer a couple times a year. I think it's once per quarter. I thought that was really cool. I'd heard about something similar a few years ago in VCon in 2022. That was over in May. A couple of my friends happened to get in this thing called Flyfish. And it had a cool concept where if you had this NFT, that's the only way you can get into this restaurant. It's the only way you can get into this food. That's how they gated it. I thought it was really heckin' cool. And still around, even though the SEC tried to go in and get them. They fined them for about $750,000. Doc, you want to take a lead on this? Yeah,
I was gonna be like, bro, what are you doing stealing my thunder?
I'm sorry.
No, it was a good intro. So this is very recent news, and the reason I bring this up is because I've seen some comments, and I've had some people reach out to me and be like, hey, I'm not really understanding like what's happening here. What are the implications? It's an NFT project. You know, how does this affect potentially affect VeVe, right? So let me give you guys a little bit of a background. Like Randy was saying, there's this NFT project called Flyfish Club LLC. I mean, that's the corporation name, but Flyfish Club project, and you can buy. And they raised the funds, and there were like more rare NFTs, is my understanding. And if you got like a more rare NFT, you got access to a more exclusive portion of the restaurant. So all this NFT did was guarantee you access to the restaurant, right? You still had to pay for food and drink. So there was nothing wrong, but it was just the access to it. And so as I'm reading this, right, so basically, so they sold more than half at $8,400 for the regular NFTs and $14,300 for the Omakase NFTs. That was the more rare version of it, right? So they didn't even sell out all of the NFTs, but in aggregate, they raised approximately like 14.8 million. But then on top of that, with secondary sales, they got about another 2.7 million in royalties. Okay, so the SEC comes after them, and they're basically what the SEC said. They put out this statement on the 16th, so just 2 days ago, Like, hey, there was this, between August 2021 and May of 2022, Flyfish offered and sold to investors approximately 1,600 Flyfish NFTs. Flyfish engaged in significant marketing efforts that promoted the NFTs as investments and led investors to expect profits from Flyfish's efforts. According to the order, Flyfish, so the cease and desist order, Flyfish told investors that they could potentially profit if the club were successful, either by reselling their NFTs in the secondary market at appreciated prices or by leasing their NFTs to others interested in accessing the club as a passive income strategy. According to the order, 42% of investors bought more than one NFT in the offering, even though they only needed one NFT to become a member of the club. How dare they? So basically, yeah, they're saying, hey, so it says the order charges Flyfish with violating sections 5A and 5C of the Securities Act of 1933 by offering and selling these crypto asset securities to the public in an unregistered offering that was not exempt from registration. So here's what's so important about this, right? Is without admitting or denying the SEC's findings, Flyfish just agreed to a cease and desist order. So they're going to stop selling these NFTs and to pay a $750,000 civil penalty, and will comply with certain undertakings, right? So when I talk about regulation and how important it is as VeVe and Ecomi are navigating this and doing everything they can to not get a target on their back from the SEC, this is the type of stuff that they have to be careful of, right? Or just be like cognizant of. It is like a cease and desist order, right? And a major fine. Even if like they can pay the fine, if there's a cease and desist order and they can't make the NFTs anymore, what happens? Like, that's some serious stuff. Please understand how serious that is. And so I know there's delays with the, like, and VeVe or Ecomi, like the way that they talk about the token or don't talk about the token. I know that people are like, well, other projects are doing this. You're right. And look what happens. Right? Like this is the stuff that happens. So I don't want that for VeVe and I don't want that for Ecomi. And now here's the other part of it, right? Right now, and we've talked about this many times on this channel, is that right now you have kind of like an anti-crypto head of the SEC, right? Who can't even tell us whether or not ETH is a security, but apparently these NFTs are securities. And I mean, there's just no clarity in this space and it's a joke. But Flyfish didn't want to fight this. So they didn't go to court. It wasn't proven that these are even securities, right? First and foremost. They just are like, look, we're not going to spend the money to go through this. We don't have $100 million to fight the SEC like Ripple had to. So like, sorry, like investors and everything, like we're out. You're done. You just lost your money, right? But there's dissent from some certain commissioners, right? And Hester Peirce, who I got to meet at NFT NYC 2024, it was so awesome. She spoke, and I talked to her and asked her a few questions and things. But she even says we need updated regulations that provide clarity. The Securities Act of 1933, and they're using the Howey test decision, right? From I think it was like the 70s. They're trying to apply it 50 years later to crypto and like this stuff, and basically like so they put out so Hester Peirce, Commissioner Hester Peirce and Commissioner Mark Uyeda put out basically like a statement on this, right, where they basically disagree with this. They're like, what are we doing? What are we even doing right now? Trying to regulate NFTs. And it's just a joke with all of the things that the SEC has, like that they could be looking at. This is what they're spending their resources and time on. $750,000 fine for these NFTs. Like, give me a break, like we got real problems to deal with. And here's what they say. The security laws in this case are not needed here. And their application is harmful both in the present case and as a future precedent. The Flyfish NFTs were simply a different way to sell memberships. That's all it was. Why shouldn't a chef be able to sell memberships to eat at her kitchen table and to collect royalties on resales of those memberships?
Yeah.
Offer a promising way to allow creative people, such as chefs, musicians, or visual artists, to monetize their talent and a potentially efficient way for selling access to experiences and communities. Experiments like Fly Fish Club are not a threat to the American investor. Creative people should be able to experiment with NFTs without having to consult a high-priced tea leaf reader lawyer. Because that's the thing, is even the attorneys, like, they don't for sure know, right? Like, it's crazy. So first of all, shout out to these commissioners for making this statement and calling out the absurdity that's happening right now at the SEC with Gary Gensler. And we've seen that as these things actually go to court, the SEC is losing the majority of these battles. But a lot of these projects don't have the funds to fight that. So shame on you, SEC, again, Gary Gensler, for ruining like the opportunities for so many musicians and artists, or chefs in this case, right? To sell memberships like in a different, unique way, and to allow them to continue to gain funds from that ingenuity. So that's the story there. How that impacts VeVe right now, I don't think it does. First and foremost, VeVe has very few actual VeVe NFTs that are theirs, right? So that's the first thing. Now VeVe does sell Disney NFTs and things, and I don't see Disney marketing that in any of the ways that we've seen. I don't see any of these others marketing it in the way, and we don't have examples of exactly what the marketing efforts were, or so we'd have to see that, but not too concerned.
Are you saying not examples of marketing efforts of Flyfish or Disney?
Flyfish. Yeah,
okay,
that they listed there, right? The marketing efforts of Flyfish where the SEC is saying this is how they marketed it and this is what we're tagging as. And again, it was never proven that they were actually securities, even with all these claims. They just decided to just fold, pay the fine, and bounce. And sorry, investors, you're just out the money.
So think about it from this side. This has happened twice now, at least. The SEC has come in under the guise of protecting the investors. One of the big ones was an ICO that lasted forever. What was the big ICO? They raised like $2 billion. It was supposed to be a big chain. It was by one of the founders of ETH. I'm trying to even remember the name of it, and it's become completely irrelevant now. But back in 2017, 2018, everyone was talking about this big chain that was going to be an ETH killer. And their ICO was done interesting over like a 1.5 year period, and they raised billions of dollars. So then the SEC comes in and says, oh, you're an illegal ICO. And so they paid some fine that was much smaller than the amount raised. They paid some fine, settled with them, did a cease and desist. Okay, we won't work on it anymore. So you know who got effed in that? All the investors. Mm-hmm. The team didn't get effed. They walked away with all this money. They're like, okay, great. Isn't that the case here? So they did this project and they raised a whole bunch of money. And then they're looking at their options. Man, we could spend everything that we have, everything that we raised, and more fighting the SEC, or we could take the $750,000, walk away with a bunch of money, and just be like, sorry, guys, we can't do anything. So it forces a situation where the investors are guaranteed to get screwed. Thank you, SEC, for screwing all the investors in both these cases. Good job protecting the people. You're fucking amazing. Goodness.
Preach.
Get me off.
Go, Rain. Rant, Rain. Oh, you should have a separate channel called Ranting Rain or Rain's Rants, where you just go off. Or like, I would love that.
So yeah, I'm just disappointed. This is what happens when you give the government a stop sign, where there's a government official that gets to decide who gets to pass and who doesn't get a pass. This is why you need like electronic like stop lights that automatically like certain things trigger them to turn green and certain things trigger them to go red. So you can't have a person there arbitrarily deciding who gets to go and who doesn't get to go. That enters corruption, because then it's like, well, whoever's in charge of that person, you donate to that party, and you know what? They decide you can go. You can go. And maybe that's what they're trying to do. I don't know. That's what that suggests. I can't say I know that that's what they're trying to do. But Gary Gensler is a very political animal. He does know crypto. I was very excited when he got put in. I did not realize he would turn very anti-crypto once he was in that. And he's just protecting the people, as we can see by his actions, how good he's actually protecting the people. Thanks, Gary, for screwing tons and tons of investors. Good job. You're great at your work.
Cosmo, anything to add?
Honestly, it reminds me a little bit of what was being talked about just earlier this week with the Trump family, not to get political, and I won't, but the Trump family releasing their DeFi project, right? And they talked about that for a couple of hours. And what they talked about was essentially that exact thing, is Trump's family was able to get access to funding for all their projects so easily, as much as they needed. But the second they got into politics, all of a sudden, all these banks started drying up the funds because they didn't agree with what he was pushing politically. And so they explained the importance of decentralized finance is that it's going to allow not anonymity, but essentially just being able to get access to funds in a fair, transparent way on the blockchain. And the problems that it can solve with that, of people just choosing winners and choosing losers, especially when you're talking about huge amounts of money and it starts to just get into a political game. This is just another example of why blockchain is going to be such a critical technology for the foreseeable future, because of some of these problems that it realistically solves on exposing or just helping get rid of corruption in these types of instances. So yeah, just super important technology on all the different things they can do.
That brings up the bigger point of what's really going on here and why they hate crypto so much. Right now, everything's gated through mechanisms that they can control. They have a lot of mechanisms to control banks, and then banks can get hurt if they then loan to somebody who has politics different from what the main establishment wants. And so one of the reasons they're anti-crypto is a free market thing. And they're using the securities laws of the 1930s to apply pressure on crypto to basically shut it all down, except for BlackRock's ETF of Bitcoin, but shut down all the altcoins and all the funding that essentially is decentralized funding, allowing people to be able to invest their funds in causes that they believe in. And that's what they're trying to shut down. They don't want that to happen. Now, you're okay to go to your casino where the odds are very bad for you, and over time, you're going to lose more money than you win. That's totally okay. They don't care about that. That's fine. But for you to be able to invest in causes that you believe in, we can't allow that. We need mechanisms to decide who can raise funds this way. We want every crypto project to have to come to the SEC and beg us to allow them to raise funds through it. And that's what the fight is.
It's like I guess I feel like certain politicians and political parties are the same as manipulative parents, that they value your abilities based on what they want from you at the time. Like one party's going and saying like, oh, you should not be on the ballot because we don't want you taking away votes from us. And then as soon as it becomes politically convenient for that person to be on the ballot, then they'll be like, oh, actually, we're going to try to, or be off the ballot, or we're going to try to keep you on the ballot. You can't get off now. Again, really strange way they do that. Anyway, going on more to the macro, just for this one last thing before we get to, because this is an OMI show, so we'll go about that. The Fed has announced today that they are cutting rates by 50 basis points. You do have a couple interesting things here. The last in history, two previous times they did that, in I think 01 and then in 07, when they cut by 50 basis points, you had a pretty big recession thereafter, except for 2020, where the most recent one came out. They had cut points because you had the pandemic and everything just flew, like trillions of dollars ripped into the market. You had that bailout money. You had a bunch of people getting those $1,200 checks. Which way will the market go now? Will it be a nice rip into the election to make people think that the economy is doing really well and then a dip? Or are we going to see, I mean, Bitcoin's reaction pretty positively. It's up like 4% since the announcement. What do y'all think is going to happen?
I'll go last on this.
Okay.
Cosmo is our guest. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go. So I think it's definitely bullish. It's so interesting, this 4-year cycle, like how things continue to play out, that like when it's going to enter the bear market, there just seems to always be some sort of black swan event that kind of causes the big dip. And then as we start entering the periods of, as it's kind of supposed to, quote unquote, get back to the bull market, these things kind of just start happening one after another that kind of increase the momentum for bullish sentiment. And this is just one of those things. Like I don't doubt that it's going to affect the broader market positively, but I think it's definitely going to impact the crypto market positively, especially as they keep doing rate cuts as planned. So I think it's definitely bullish news. It sets things up for a nice 2025, kind of right on target. So I love it.
Yeah. So this is part of the 4-year cycle, and part of what creates a 4-year cycle. Part of what creates the 4-year cycle is the Bitcoin halving, but also timed with the U.S. elections, coming up to the U.S. election. There's two things happening there. One is the U.S. elections, and the party in power usually puts pressure on the Fed to lower interest rates because it juices the economy right up to the election. There's a second thing that happens. Since 2008, like a lot of businesses were able to borrow money for really cheap. And there's a refinance 4-year cycle that happens. So they take out short-term loans and they have to refinance these every 4 years back at a low rate. Should the rates not come down, that's going to cause massive, massive problems for these big businesses. And so they also tend to drop every 4 years for that, allowing a bunch of these longer term loans to be refinanced. So who really covers that a lot is Raoul Pal. He does a great job covering that and really sharing with you why this big boom is coming. Now, a lot of people are new to investing that are here. This isn't something that they have a lot of experience doing. They're trying to wrap their mind around it. They watch day to day and they have no idea kind of what's going on. Oh, the price is down or the price is up, and it's just all confusing. Check out Raoul Pal, P-A-L, and his channel. It'll really help you understand the bigger macro environment of why crypto is going to go so big, so much bigger than you can imagine.
Agreed. And as Dr. Stuff goes, just as a little bit more background, you have Bhutan buying $780 million worth of Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy, which just recently acquired another $1 billion, are offering $700 million in convertible senior notes so that they can buy even more Bitcoin, even though we're past that $50,000 level. When bull run, Doc? How does it all connect? Bring it all together. Bring it home.
Oh man, this is gonna be funny because I'm gonna throw a little bit of water on you guys here. I want you to step into the doctor's office. I'm gonna lay some things out.
And I'm gonna mute you. No, I'm joking. Sorry.
You probably should. No, but let me kind of so your stat, Randy, can you repeat that again about the last time that the Fed cut 50 basis points? What happened?
Yeah, let's take a look at this here. So there were 2 times in history, in 2001 and in 2007, where the Fed had cut 50 basis points. And of course, the one thing I didn't screenshot. And you had unemployment go up, and then you saw you basically saw a recession thereafter. Now, granted, you had the dot-com bubble, and then you had the housing crisis, which didn't, could have been separate factors that kind of led to that. But then recently, when they did a rate cut in 2020, then everything just ripped into the market. We had that K-shaped recovery, and that was beautiful for people who bought that dip.
Yeah. So a little bit of background as to why people are like, I don't understand. If they did this 50 basis point cut, then why did we all of a sudden see a spike in unemployment in these recessions? So the Fed in general, ladies and gentlemen, is reactionary. Their rate cuts and things, they're looking at what's happened, right? And saying, okay, now what do we do, right? Instead of trying to be proactive beforehand and saying, what do we think is going to happen? And how do we need to react to that? They're waiting until it's already happened. And so by the time, and this has happened multiple times with economic policy, with this monetary supply, right? Like whether they're doing these rate cuts or they're buying back treasuries and trying to, monetary tightening or loosening, right? Like these tools that they have there is reactionary. And so there's a lag. And so basically what's happened is those 2 times that you gave, they were too late, right? They implemented that rate cut too late. And so by then, all of the things that had happened were already in effect, and they were already like, there was nothing that they could do. There's that snowball that's rolling down. And so they're like, hey, we're going to put this 50 basis point cut to try to help the economy. But there's other things. So let me give you an example of what's been happening, right? So, and why this time, it's going to be very interesting to see how things play out, because the interest rates were so low for so long that what started to happen is some of these corporations like Apple basically like issued debt for like 30 years at like 2% fixed, right? Fixed. They're corporate bonds. They're issuing 30-year corporate bonds at a fixed 2% rate. So they locked in really low capital, basically, or however they want to use those funds. But then also, all including myself, I locked in my mortgage, right, at a super low interest rate. And then as rates rose, like people are selling their homes now. Like the real estate market and like refinancing, like construction, remodeling, all of that, like that whole industry is about 15% of GDP. Okay, like a huge percent of our GDP, and that's hurt right now. I mean, look, there's still demand in certain pockets and areas where like there's such a demand for housing that there's continuing to build, but like the supply is so low because people just aren't selling that, right? Like I'm not going to sell my house and buy another house and go from like less than 3% interest rate to 5.5%, 6%, and most people aren't doing that. So there's basically like this lag that's been created now, where they've risen interest rates, but the markets haven't reacted like they would normally do because the rates were so low for so long. And so what's happened is now you've had certain, I've talked about commercial real estate, where commercial real estate, those loans are around 3 to 5 years in term. And so they locked in these super low rates, but then now they've had to refinance into much higher rates. And if they don't have the occupancy to support that, right, they've got to raise rents. And if people are like, well, I'm just going to bounce, or my company's teleworking most of it because of COVID now, like we're not going to pay those rents, we're out. You have all of these companies and real estate, right, that basic commercial real estate that is suffering, and it's too late. This 50% basis point, it's too late. They've already refinanced. Sure, they can refinance now, but some of them, they folded. They're like, sorry, here's the keys, bank, I'm out, right? And so depending on how quickly if they lower rates quickly, maybe that can still lessen the impact, but that's a big deal. But here's the thing that was really interesting as I was listening to the podcast. So this is going to maybe add some more fuel to the flame of like why this is important, right? BlackRock, one of the things that the head of digital assets talked about, what was so important that they're trying to do to educate their investors is that Bitcoin is and should be considered a risk-off asset. So
can you define risk-off asset for us?
Yeah. So basically, when the economy goes bad and like things are riskier, there's not a lot of liquidity in the markets. Investors and hedge funds and insurance companies, all these companies, they look for low risk assets. They don't want to play in that space because they're just like, we're uncertain about the economy. We don't know where it's headed. We're not going to hire. So we need like risk off assets. But the crypto industry as a whole, like, and even just like pundits, like Wall Street pundits and things, they're just like, oh, as Bitcoin's become more normalized, right? They're like, the stock market's crashing. Like, let's see how this is affecting Bitcoin. But BlackRock is like, this is a risk off asset. Like, so for gold, right? They aren't saying like, hey, the stock market's down, like, or the jobs market's down. What's gold doing? Type thing. Like, gold is like a store of value. It's a more risk off asset. And he's like, we're trying to educate our investors and the crypto industry, like as a whole, we're still seeing it where people are perceiving it as a risk on asset. He's like, but you know what was really interesting that didn't is when those 3 banks failed last year, right? It happened almost immediately, right? And there wasn't time for people to sit there and say, hey, this is an issue. How's this going to affect Bitcoin? Bitcoin went up because then people started the initial reaction was like, oh, the Fed's going to print more money and the value of my dollar is going to go down. I need Bitcoin, right? Like that's the initial reaction. And so if there is potentially like a decline in the economy, right, where we do see like a minor recession or something, or even a bigger recession, if that mindset is that Bitcoin is a risk-off asset, we could actually see a significant increase in Bitcoin and the purchasing of Bitcoin, because they're saying this is a store of value and it's protecting me against now the government introducing liquidity into the market. But then the ironic thing is as there's more liquidity in the market, people who still perceive Bitcoin as a risk on asset or other crypto assets as a risk on, they're going to be using that liquidity and purchasing it. So anyways, I know that was just like a super long discussion, but I think it's important to understand kind of like what's happening in the background and what could cause these events.
Yeah. Somebody needs to clip that as well, because that was really good and that was really important. That's why I love Dfinity so much, is because it's really annoying to take, like, let's say you have worth a lot of money and you don't want to carry around $100,000 on you, you could just have it in Bitcoin. And let's say you want to go gamble and you want to go, high limit, and for the high limit stuff, and you're putting in, $1,200 a pull on those slot machines, you don't want to have to carry that around. But if you have Bitcoin, you can go to a casino, and then Dfinity will say, you have $1 million of the Bitcoin, get $500,000 in gambling chips, which is heckin' awesome. Strasnitska, that is false. Trump does not own 70% of the supply of his world coin. Approximately 63% is going to go to the public, 17% to rewards, and 20% to team and advisors. So please stop that misinformation, or else Hillary Clinton will put you in jail. Anyway, we have a
wait, hold on. I got a question about that. That's very interesting, because I actually took that at face value for what it was, and responded to it. But can you break that down again? Because this is supposed to be a governance token, and so it'd be very interesting to see if 63% of it is supposed to go out to the community.
Yes, that's available to the public.
That's available to the public. It'll be very interesting, because that governance vote, I'm going to have to see the actual white paper on this. And
I can add one of the items on there is one of the things they said is that no one person can vote on more than 5% of the token. So even if you own more than 5%, you can't have more than 5% vote.
Interesting.
That is
and
interesting.
is right. I forgot about that. That is true, that the token itself is non-transferable.
Ooh, interesting.
And so they're saying, listen, honestly, the only people we want buying this token, they said that in the space, right, is the people who truly are looking to build out and better the DeFi space, right? So we want projects that are invested in this. And they're like, if you got stuff, come reach out to us, talk to us. We want to build this out and make this so yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Also known as a souvenir. That's a good parallel, right? So if it's non-transferable, that means it's non-tradable, which would protect them mostly from the SEC. I was a little bit confused with this announcement going up into the election, and I'm like, is he trying to paint a huge target on his back by Gary Gensler, who is definitely controlled by the DNC? What the heck? But if he made it non-transferable, it's going to be really hard for them to make the case that it's a security, because there's no value to it other than your voting rights. Because if you can't sell it, then what is the expected increase in value going to be?
Yeah. If anyone wanted to listen to that space, I think it's recorded. It's really nice to hear them kind of joke with each other on who's more knowledgeable on crypto, because they're at that level where they're all pretty knowledgeable. Seems that Eric and Baron do know the most, but that was really fun to see. It's okay, we're in good hands. Not financial advice about anything. Anywho, moving on here. We have a in the outer realm, and this will tie back into OMI. Binance has listed a token called Nero, and its market cap did a 10x. I'm unsure if that will do the same thing for OMI, but CZ getting released from prison on the 29th, just in time for October. It seems like people really still are into Binance. And when Foster was asked about this guy named Clomis said, I was the one who told y'all on the live stream that you lost weight. I guess he's trying to get in his good graces. Anyway, are exchanges still a thing, or is OMI being on base more than enough for the Ecomi team? Last question, when will CoinGecko and CoinMarketCap get updated about this? Foster says, accessibility is still a large priority for us, and that includes exchanges as well. Exchanges as in multiple, there's plural there. Saying CoinGecko should be accurate, but we will be reaching out back to CoinMarketCap to get them to integrate the API to track the tokens. So even though Binance is really only for a lot of Europeans, Binance US doesn't really do a ton of volume. Could a Binance or a Coinbase, could that do a 10x for us the same way it did with Nero? Does it do something greater because we actually have utility? Or does it just do a little 2x and then go back down to where we are, same as always? What are you guys' thoughts?
Depends on what's going on in the bigger market when the news comes out. If they list on those exchanges, Binance, I don't think will be a very big deal because all the people in Europe, in Africa, and Asia already have access to markets that is tradable. It's really just the U.S. market, which Coinbase would be a bigger deal because then U.S. people can then buy. In a bigger market, like with bigger anticipation, like if digital collectibles are going good already, it will amplify that. If they're not, it might 2x, 2.5x, and then just kind of step back a little bit. But I don't think it'll come back down to the prices that things are at if they get listed on Coinbase. I think that is bullish news. And it sets things up for when people really come in the future, that is another on-ramp. But I do like what Dr. Profit is doing in that this could become really easy as an on-ramp. If down the road people are able to buy OMI with their credit card through his app, that would be a really big deal because right now on-ramping into crypto is fairly difficult. If you're in the US or you're using Coinbase to on-ramp funds, like there's this holdback period. At first, when you first get an account, you can only put so much in. And then you got to buy, if you can't buy OMI directly, you have to buy something. You then have to send the funds somewhere to then be able to trade for OMI. And so you're really limited on how much you can bring in right away. Imagine if you could just buy that directly with a credit card, or you can buy it directly on Coinbase, the max they'll allow you, but you can buy OMI directly instead of having to get some funds, let them cure for a week or 10 days, and then send them somewhere else to get it. Both those things are bullish for OMI doing well as the masses come in when they come in. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it sets up things so that when those things happen, OMI can really blast off.
I'll jump in on this one. So I was watching this announcement actually pretty closely when it came out because, the Binance listed a few different tokens all at once, right? Nero, Turbo, which is a meme coin I followed, and Hold, and then a couple others. Baby Doge, I think was one of them, and they reacted a bit differently. And one of the reasons why I think Nero did such a high amount of X's, I think it went 20x actually, was because it was a really small market cap. Like it was almost like 15 million, I think, when it listed on Binance, which is unusual. So I don't know if they paid a huge amount of money to get listed or how that worked out. So it pumped that big time. And then Turbo was already at like a 250 or 225 million market cap when it got listed, and it pumped 50%, right? So they're both now, Nero and Turbo, are like a 370-ish million market caps. And we'll see if there's more pump in this or not. The trading volume is super high for each of those projects, but they reacted differently. And so I think with OMI, with already being at around 100 million market cap, a listing on Binance probably isn't going to have as good of a chance to pump as much as a project like Nero was when it was only at 15 million, right? Like that impacts a project's X's that it does, but it's going to help for sure if it gets listed on Binance, no question.
Yeah, I'm going to say something too. I think it's important to realize that right now meme coins are like coming back into the narrative. So there's a lot of attention on that. And so if you look at like when a token is listed on Binance and there's already like a lot of eyes because like it's in a narrative, there's an even bigger pump. And so I would have to say like we could potentially see a bigger pump in OMI if it's listed on Binance, if for whatever reason OMI's in the narrative for something, right? Whether it's NFTs again, and tokens tied to that, or tokens tied to a metaverse or gaming, and VeVe actually, or VeVe and Ecomi, or VeVe has something that is tied to gaming that we can see, then we could definitely see like an even bigger pump when it gets onto even Binance. But I'm with Rain as well, and Cosmo. Like Coinbase is going to be a bigger thing just because more US people can buy it, but it'll be interesting once Dr. Profit builds out that utility or that availability to purchase OMI with a credit card on Stacker, because then I honestly think that people are just going to use that, because if people are listing things in OMI at a cheaper price, right, what it is dollar wise compared to the app, because there's not that 10% cash out fee. People are like, I'm just going to buy the OMI. I'm just going to buy it, and I'm just going to buy the NFT there. If I want to buy the OMI, buy that NFT, I'm just going to buy it on Stacker. And if there's the ability to purchase OMI instead of gems with my credit card, I'm just going to do that. And then all of a sudden you get OMI burn and you get people purchasing OMI, which is creating that demand for that token.
Yeah, that good volume.
That's actually going to be a really, really big over time, really big deal.
Agreed. And even if you have someone that wants to, just take the OMI and not hold it, and they just want to sell, you still get that volume. Like somebody has to buy that in order to go in and purchase that over on the Sacker. And yeah, sure, they sell, but again, the volume is there, I think, is really what's important. Because a lot of traders won't really touch it when you have 200,000 in volume like we have today. But if you have a couple million in volume, then certain traders might be interested. And then obviously the self-fulfilling prophecy there. Moving on, we have a couple of things on VeVe that we should go over. One is the Comics and Crypto bounty for the Xenomorph number 1979. That is something that has a $1,000 bounty on. Doesn't make much sense to go in and buy up the rest of the market, because you would, for that $1,000 bounty, you could only really get 20 of them. There's no guarantee you get that, especially when there's like 1,300 left. This is not the only one they have this for. They have this for a couple of comics as well. Why do you think they are going so crazy and putting these crazy bounties on these special mint numbers?
I think they understand where these comics are going to go in the future. And specifically, like on the old comics, there are no mint numbers. So this idea of mint numbers is a new thing. But later, as you have big money come in, they look for social flexes. So look at how much people paid for Bored Apes and special Bored Apes, like crazy prices. Recently, like an alien CryptoPunk sold, and it sold for crazy prices. As digital comics catch on, these are some of the biggest digital comics out there, and specific mint numbers that it's essentially a one of one. So if you get that comic and you get the year that the comic came out as the mint number, that is very special. And as people are coming in like Saudi oil money or something, people that have crazy amounts of money and they decide they're interested in this space and they want social flexes, like that's a social flex. And if you're trying to get the year that the comic was launched, there's only one of those for every comic. So on the really big comics, that's going to end up being a really big deal in the future.
100% agree. Like, and what we're already seeing here is even during a bear market for NFTs, where like, yeah, most people's vault values are down, right? Like, and people are just concerned about that. You have people who are saying, I am taking advantage of this. And here's the thing. This is why I tell people, I'm like, look, I'm paying attention to what comics and crypto are doing, because for years now, they've been buying basically. So when a movie gets up for like an Oscar, right, or something, basically a copy of that movie is sent to people, and I can't remember what they call it, but there's a specific copy, right?
For your consideration?
Yeah, for your consideration, exactly. And comics and crypto have been buying these like for your considerations and getting them graded, or they're already buying them graded and things. And they posted now as they're making some really good returns on some of these. And they're also posting, Super Mario World or Super Mario Brothers and what that's recently sold for, right? Just like an open Super Mario cartridge. Like, I just feel like they see things. They're seeing like what's happening. And so now they're putting their money where their mouth is. And they believe they're just like, these are one of ones, like Rain said, right? Basically. And we believe that people are going to really care about that in the future. And since we don't have like a grading scale per se, like we do with comics, right? Where it's a 9.8 or a 10 or something, this is one of the easiest ways to differentiate your collectible from anyone else, is that mint number. And especially when it's tied to a very important date there. So that's why I think that they're willing to spend this, and it'll be interesting to see 10 years from now, like 5, 10, 15, I don't know, right? Down the road, if people look back and be like, unbelievable what they were able to buy that for back then, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant as well. It is one of many different types of strategies that you can take with collecting in general, but on VeVe specifically. And the thing about that particular strategy is, how much does owning that type of mint matter to the social flex. And for their brand, Comics and Crypto, I think it's brilliant, honestly, because I think it lends to a level of credibility for them that, oh my gosh, they've got the #1 mint of this, or the year, the release year for that. And it's like right up the brand alley to have that. And so like you'll see people that are collecting more of just like the floor prices, and then as the price pumps, they'll kind of go in and out at the floors. But then with that strategy, I mean, you can price it almost whatever you want. But then the thing is that if you do want to sell it at some point, you just have to be patient, right? You got to wait for that one collector that's willing to pay a massive amount for it, or whatever you're listing for it. Otherwise, you just kind of got to wait it out or lower it until the demand becomes more popular amongst a greater number of people. So I love what they're doing. I think it matches their brand identity. So I think that in the long run, it could pay off some serious dividends for them.
Yeah, agreed. They're doing great. They're getting all these things. And the amount of people that I've seen at least in Pokemon, most people that buy grails in the Pokemon industry, yeah, like 85, 90% of them are people that are in the Pokemon, but a good 10% of people that buy those grails have no interest in Pokemon, but they just come in from World War II memorabilia, or they come in from baseball cards or whatever, and they want the top of the top, and they spend their $250,000 and they get it, and then they leave. So I think also it's a networking thing where who are you going to go to for these special mints? You have like Clever Jerk, you have Dr. Profit, you have Mr. MC1, and you have Comics and Crypto, that if you want these special mints, you have to go through them, and they'll be like, hey, I'll sell you this at the price you want, but you have to come on the podcast. You have to come on and do this. And heckin' beautiful. Oh, I love them for that. They're great.
What's funny is during the bear market, it's really hard for people that don't know market cycles well to imagine the prices that these things can go to. There's this guy that I knew from back in 2018. Well, in 2019, he decided he was going to buy these CryptoPunk things, and they were going for about an ETH. And he's like, you know what? I think these things are going to be the future. And he was just buying a ton of them. And also he's like, you know, these Mystic Axes from their initial launch, you had a % chance you could get some Mystic abilities, 1, 2, or 3. And those were going for like 1 to 2.5 ETH for something that had 2 Mystic abilities. I think it was going for like, I can't remember what it's going for if it had 3 Mystic abilities. Well, later, those axes were going for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And keep in mind, ETH was way down. So like 2.5 ETH, you're talking about like $300 or $400. But he just had this vision of, okay, I think these are going to be big as money comes back into the bull market. I mean, there's this clear 4-year cycle. I think when the 4-year cycle hits again, that these are going to do well. I can't say I know, but it's just a good guess. Going with that, a lot of people will be like, oh yeah, but nobody's really buying these comics now. And it's like, you're right. Now there aren't that many people buying it. That's why the prices are really good. Why do you think the prices were so low on these CryptoPunks and these Mystic Axes back then? Because nobody was buying them, because it was the bear market, and a lot of people don't have future vision. We don't have a magic crystal ball, so you do have to make just good educated guesses. Marvel Comics, pretty good guess that they're going to become a big deal as everyone starts to focus on these digital assets. And then they're like, oh yeah, Bitcoin, oh, crypto, oh my gosh, there are digital versions of Marvel Comics. Oh my hell, that's such a big deal. And they start looking at the comics and they're like, oh, and for those with money, they're like, you know, I want a special mint number. It looks like the year that the comic was launched, it's becoming a big deal. I'm going to buy those. Looks like issue number 40 is a big deal, or whatever it is that, you know, the first available to the public number is a big deal. So they'll want to buy that, or they'll want to buy 2-digit mint numbers, and that will become a big deal as well. And so that will all become a big thing. And I think the base floor prices will go up. I've mostly been buying whatever is on the floor, because as these things happen, the floor raises tremendously. And they're sellable, right? If you buy it on the floor, later when you sell it, you can sell it on the floor and make your gains there. So rather than scooping up very specific mint numbers where I have to spend like $500, $1,000, $5,000 for, I've just been buying some at the floor, because later I'll just be able to sell them at the floor. Should I get one of those special mint numbers? Gosh, I'd be hard pressed to ever sell it. So I haven't been picking up those.
As Chris ever said, it's for a flex. And mint numbers matter. And I feel like people get caught up in this things that are like rare. So like example, VeVe Gold logo. That is rare. That has like 450 mints, give or take. Even stuff that's lesser than that, like Spider-Man Noir, 88 mints, the Lucky Gold Rosso, 88 mints. Those are for sure rare, but they're not scarce. There's always multiple of those for sale, a dozen or so. But when you have these mint numbers, 41, 69, nice, 420, or the years that they were minted, there's only one of them. So yeah, if you have something even as scarce like Spider-Man Noir, and we'll talk about that later, that there's 80 of them because VeVe keeps 8, but there's always going to be dozens there. Like if you could have a couple of whales go in and they can feed, they can get 1 or 2 or 3, however much. But if you have a certain mint number for a comic that's the year it was made, there's only one of those. And it only takes a couple of whales to go in and make it a ridiculous price, where a lot of people that are in these fish bowls will say like, who would ever spend that on that? That's ridiculous. I would never spend that. And they're right. Most people would never spend that. But you have these nerds that grow up and they get big boy money and they go in and say like, I'll spend on that because that's what I want. And it brings me happiness. It brings me joy. And they're going to do it. What I heckin' love about them. Also, the thing with the Xenomorph was really cool. Always got to shout out to them because they're in that Aliens vs. Avengers comics, which I love.
What some people don't understand about the rich too is money at a certain point becomes meaningless to them, because when you get to above a certain number, all your needs are met. You can buy all the food you want. You can fly private anywhere you want. And so they fixate on social flexes because money doesn't have the same meaning it did as when they were poor. And especially if you have like oil money coming in and where it's just raining in on you like that. And then they just look for social flexes that kind of make them feel like they stand out. And that's why, like, it's like most people wouldn't pay that for it. Well, you're not wrong, but you're not trying to sell to most people. You're trying to sell to the top 0.1% of wealthy in this world. And that's who would pay these crazy prices. Because remember, there's only one for the year, or the mint number of the year that comic came out. And so that's who's going to have the money to buy these should digital collectibles take off. And it's a pretty dang good bet that they're going to.
There's a lot of people, like I said, Clever Jerk. He has the number 123 Marvel logo. He's got a bunch of 123 stuff. Dude's a mad lad. I have to figure out when Maserati, like when their birth year was, when they first started making cars, because we have Maserati up in here. Are you guys excited for that? How do you feel about the mint numbers? How do you feel about the price? Y'all gonna go for it, or is there a pass for you?
Most drops, it's a pass for me. I come around later on. Now, the downside of that is, the randomness of getting a good mint number you miss out on, because by the time you're buying on the secondary market, everyone knows what mint number they have, unless it's some kind of blind box they pick up that doesn't get open till later. But that's not how VeVe does it. So the mint numbers are already known, and somebody gets really lucky getting a good mint number. But I wonder where they're going with these different vehicles. What would be cool is to see in the VeVe-verse some kind of racing mechanism, especially if they tie the performance of the car to the actual performance of the car in real life. That would be amazing. I've not heard them saying that they're doing anything like that, but down the road, and it might be years down the road, they could do something like that, and that'd be a lot of fun. Especially since we know some of the cars, like the DeLorean, are drivable. Just saying.
I think they all will be one day. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Doc.
Yeah, I was thinking, because the DeLorean, like, hold on, I'm going to look at this up, but game NFT. So DeLorean announced that they have partnered with the Motorverse to launch gaming NFTs, right? And so you got some of the OG fudders that are sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, all you idiots who bought DeLoreans thinking that they were going to be in this, VeVe was going to create this game, and look how stupid you look, and you're all dumb, right?" And it's like, just because that's the first game, one doesn't mean it's going to be the best game, or that it's going to be the only game, right? And I think, like, if/when VeVe gets into gaming, there's the chance that there's going to be multiple games. And like, if there's just this one game with the Motorverse and you can use a DeLorean, but then someone can go over to VeVe and that gaming and use the NFTs there as well. Oh, and by the way, they're actually like the first NFTs on top of that, right? Like, it'll be interesting to see. So like, it was interesting to me that, I mean, there's just so many people that they're just looking for any reason to kind of just, pull down VeVe. But I'm like, take a step back and be like, that doesn't mean that they can't also partner with VeVe and do that later, these gaming NFTs. And I think down the line, it makes so much sense that could happen. And whether it's that they allow the community or they get the buy-off from that to be able to develop some of these games themselves and utilize these NFTs in whatever game that they develop in the VeVeverse or something, or if it's a lot bigger scale type thing, like that's still possible. And it's really going to boil down to like what game is more fun too. So anyways, it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out. But just for the people who saw that and they're just like, oh no, like this is like a big deal. It's like, it doesn't exclude VeVe from being able to do that with any of these other vehicles. And like Rain said, like those mechanisms of tying to like the real world, like how fast can it get up to 60 seconds, like some of those things, it'll be fascinating to see all of that.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Cosmo?
Yeah, for my part, I love that they've got Maserati on board. I think it just strengthens the VeVe brand as they continue to add another kind of high value IP like that. And I think it's great for the community because there's this sector of the community that just loves to collect the vehicles, right? And so like for myself, I'm not necessarily going for a lot of the drops like Rain as well nowadays, but those that are, and they just love the IP and they love that specific car that's dropping, I think it's amazing for the IP. And just seeing people build their vaults where they've got their cars just all lined up in a big garage, I think it's great for the community to continue to bring on these brands because it just kind of adds to the momentum where I'm sure it turns some heads from other IPs that are like, oh, Maserati's now on board. Okay. So I think it just strengthens VeVe's brand name.
One thing I want to highlight that I just, VeVe, if you guys are watching, please figure out a way to get the car sounds tied to the NFTs. Because I look at like the motorcycle that we had, right? The 007, wasn't the 007 motorcycle where like you turn it on.
Yeah.
And it had the sound. But you can't even drive that one. Now I believe that like Lamborghini, like that motor sound is like patented or like there's some sort of copyright with that. So I don't know if VeVe would have to pay for that. I don't know. I don't know the logistics of doing that, but man, I like that just makes that NFT so much better. So much better. So please, if we can incorporate, we talk about upgrading the NFTs, getting the sounds to that as you're driving, right? And be able to like potentially like if it's peeling out, make like a peeling out sound. Like I don't know the complexity of that, but man, that would make that such a like so cool. So please, keep that in mind. We would all, I don't know a single person who was like, I want the silent car.
Maybe if you're like a Tesla owner, because their cars were originally silent. They were so silent they were forced to put in a sound so that they bypassers or whatever could be like, oh, there's a car coming.
Yeah, pedestrians are like, yeah.
Hey, one thing I'll say though is like, who knows? Maybe VeVe does incorporate some sort of racing thing. I still remember the interview like that Dan gave a while back where he was alluding to branded IP worlds, and we later saw like the announcement for Ron English's Delusionville, right? That we know is coming. But one of the things he specifically said is he's like, we might see different things like, and I'm not saying this is one of them, but it could see some sort of like racing world or something like that. And he just gave that as an example. Didn't say it was coming or anything like that, but I did kind of take a mental note of like, okay, I'll kind of file that away because it does kind of make me wonder if some point we do have a racing world at some point, especially with all these car brands.
Yeah, there's be really careful here. It seems like racing or anything with cars would probably be one of the easiest to make because the cars in general, they don't move. You have to animate the wheels, which is fine, but the cars, it's not like a transformer where things go like really crazy. The cars for the most part stay static. It's just the wheels that move, and then it shouldn't be that hard. I feel like they They could do that. I don't know how much other stuff that they have on their plate, and that just goes to the side. But yeah, agreed. Speaking of VeVe stuff here, speculation on this Marvel logo. This was, well, I guess we could talk about the issue here, this kerfuffle that they had. It was supposed to happen on October 17th, not September 17th, just that little extra date there. Somebody misstroke of a key. But their one mistake grossed them $28,000. I wish I could make a mistake and gross $28,000. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I thought that was really fun because the fudders are just like, oh, all of these mistakes are happening. And it's like, okay, like, you know, a few months ago you said like VeVe was dead, but a dead company that had no advertising, no announcement. There's no freaking picture. Nobody knew what they were buying. And they sold out in 20 minutes. In 20 minutes. Get the heck out of here. I'm sorry. Go.
And that is a good point. It's like no image and it still sells out fairly quickly. Like that is pretty wild, honestly.
Well, we did know the name of it though, right?
Yeah, right.
Logo. And so I just remember I had been in some meetings and I finally like broke for like a break or something. And like all of a sudden I'm like looking at like on the VeVe app, I'm like, what is this? How's it sold out? What happened? I was like so bummed. I was like, like there's like secret drop. I was like, I didn't even hear about this. And I've been trying to gather all the information. But then like I went out there, because then I saw Randy. He's like, oh, I said buy one for $14. And then so I'm like, oh, so then like I jump on the app and I'm seeing all this. And I was like, well, it's at $29 now. So that sucked. Like I didn't even get to buy it at those prices, but I bought a couple. Like I think that things like that, like the Marvel logo, which is pretty cool. Like you can, not that it's anything special. Can we be honest? It's $15, right? Like to buy, like, but it's the Marvel logo, and you can. It's interactive in that you can like it lights up, right? You can turn the light on, and the Marvel logo will light up and stuff. People didn't even know that when they were buying it. But I think that like the logos, like to me, I think that those are valuable. Like it's the brand, right? Like this is what is stamped on all of their merchandise everywhere they go. And it's like, there's only gonna like, I mean, I guess we haven't seen the date, and I can't imagine where they could sell like a different logo, right? Like that's their logo. I don't think that there's going to be like a version 2 of the logo, right? Unless they do what VeVe did, I guess, and completely change their logo.
Well, after how successful this one was, they'd be like, oh, hey, this did really well.
But anyways, so for me, like I definitely bought some lower mint logos where I'm like, yeah, like I think that long term this could be a big deal for people who are just big Marvel fans, and they're just displaying their whether it's just their vault or however they want to put out their collectibles. And I saw actually one, I'm trying to remember who did this. It was such a cool picture, but it was basically like the Marvel logo, and then you had like Thor and Hulk and Spider-Man, and they were all like positioned like they were looking at the logo as it was up in the sky. It was so cool. It was so cool. And I think that people are going to want to display that logo. So loved it.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess more on this, Rogers and Cowan, I have zero idea if they're still with them. I know that was their marketing agency. Also, everyone comment Blaze It down below for the 420 people that are here. I don't know if they still have the Rogers and Cowan. So going back to this logo here, you had My Collectibles post a couple weeks ago saying like, hey, if everyone collects these Marvel red, metallic versions, wouldn't it be cool if that wasn't the end? Obviously, this is not something for the metallic red, because I think the scarcest one of those is Thor. The Thor Secret Rare is like 400 of them. And if this wasn't for that, what do you think that we might be able to get? Is there going to be utility with the Marvel logo? Is there going to be utility with all the metallic reds? Previously, Marvel said that they would not do anything unless they were announced beforehand. But
no, I think that's Disney. I don't think Marvel said that, because I thought that Marvel did do something.
Did they do something without? I know they've done utility for. Oh yeah, maybe yeah, collecting the collecting the Ant-Man drop that got them the secret rare MODOK. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, there was something that was unannounced that you just got. So Marvel's done something unannounced, but Disney is the ones who have like they're worried about securities or making something to where, again, if it's like this perceived additional value ahead of time before it's like they have to know what they're getting before they buy it. They don't want that speculation aspect. But I think as we get more regulatory clarity, and there's a company already out there that's preemptively suing the SEC about utility, where they're just like, hey, like we're suing you to get clarity on whether or not like we're allowed to offer utility for our NFT. So we'll see what plays out there. But as we get more regulatory clarity, and that's the thing is for now they've said that, right? But if they get regulatory clarity where it's like actually you can do airdrops and things for things that people have already bought, even though you didn't announce it, who knows what could possibly happen there, right?
Copy that. Speaking of which, so you have a bunch of you have the top 8 holders own 240 Marvel logos. So out of the 1849 logos, the top 8 holders hold 240. Mr. MC1 had 65. I don't even know what he has right now. I haven't checked in 12 hours. So he probably bought more. What do you think? Do you think that, I mean, clearly he loves logos. He made 2 freaking groups about it. But what do you think? Do you think this is just something that he does because he likes it, or because he thinks that Marvel might give us some utility with it? In the grand scheme of things, with all of Marvel's fans, 1849 is really not a ton, but we're used to logo utility in the hundreds. You know, there's only a couple hundred of the VeVe logo, the same with the Ecomi secret rare. But what about this? Do we suspect any utility here? It's Mr. MC1. Has he lost it?
I don't see it happening from like the Marvel.
He left the meetings again.
Any that is so perfectly.
That is such an OG moment from back in 2021.
So, and I kind of sad. Like, and some people are just like, wouldn't it be great, like every once in a while, just to go back to like the old style, just like the adrenaline rush of just like trying to hit it as fast as possible. But like we say that, but then the boss would be there potentially, you know, depending on if it was like a high value drop or something, you know. And then everyone would be pissed. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. But like, yeah, the unexpected one where people got to experience that. I do sometimes miss those. But look, do I think that Marvel is going to offer any utility for their logo in the short term? The answer is like a hard no for me. But that doesn't mean that like communities can't be driven. And I think one of the valuable things that Mr. MC1 is doing is demonstrating like the communities that can be built and the high profile of some of those communities, and say there's value in offering utility here. Look at these people who are in these groups and you know the high profile that a lot of the individuals have. And that might be something you want to look into, right? By offering that utility, because these people might be willing to spend more money on your stuff. You give them this utility, but then they end up spending a lot more money with you. And you see that offered all the time, right? To kind of the high profile individuals where it's just like, oh yeah, you're in our highest tier for Delta, right? We're going to give you XYZ, all of these extras just for being our highest tier, right? There's all that additional utility. So I think that one of the things that Mr. MC1 is doing is building out these groups is demonstrating that number one, that there is a community that's willing to pay high prices for some of these collectibles just to be in the club, right? And then the profiles of the people who are in those groups. So it'd be interesting to see if there is this Marvel utility that comes. But I think that he's already demonstrating the value that these brands could have if they embrace that utility.
Reach. So moving on here, if we want to, so Spider-Man Noir, I mentioned him before. This is one of the things that there's 88 of him, which really means 80 because VeVe keeps 8 of them. So there's only 80. You have one person named Blah, 3 A's, that has 6 of these mother flappers. And this is like, if people want to collect these, they have to now spend $2,700 in order to get one. So I'm trying to flip my way to it. And one day honestly, if I get like $1,500 and this shoots off to like 5K, I'll just buy crypto and then I'll just get it at some other point. But are we seeing the makings of a new bull run? I feel like this is the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and one powder keg, giant powder keg, one pop off, one spark, and suddenly we go parabolic. I think you're starting to see this. A couple of these S tier comics, they've doubled. A couple of someone just bought another Aliens vs Avengers secret rare. I freaking hate them. They have 4 now. They have 4 secret rares. I feel like we're seeing a lot of these. Is Spider-Man Noir, is that our new grail? Is that our new dark horse to watch?
I'll jump in on this one actually first, just because of a conversation I had with Jay Green at the VeVe Gold and Silver logo party.
He's got a couple of these too.
So he and I were chatting it up for a bit. And anyway, it's kind of opened my eyes about this concept of just like how important the rarity aspect is. Like in his mind, he's like, rarity really trumps everything. And he gave me an example of a Star Wars physical collectible that was discontinued. And so there's very, very few of them. And it's called Yak Face. And I was like, Yak Face? I've never even heard of that. He's like, right, you've never heard of Yak Face. And yet that collectible is quite expensive because it literally is so rare. And the completists for Star Wars want to be able to have one, essentially. Like the completists have to have one of everything. So he kind of opened my eyes to like this Spider-Man Noir. It is a grail, honestly, because of how low mint it is. And on top of it, it is a very strong IP in terms of being Marvel, like Spider-Man universe, right? And so these completists that collect these specific brands, I mean, there's a number of them out there. There's only 80 of these public mints. So they want one, they're going to have to pay big bucks. And there are a lot of completists that are more than familiar with paying big bucks to complete their sets. So I think it is a grail.
Yeah.
For now, I mean, it could come where there's a bunch of things that come out that are way more scarce than that. And it kind of like puts Spider-Man Noir a little bit to the side compared to those. But for now, I think it is. I
mean, it's the scarcest Marvel Mighty. The secret rare. It's not the first appearance Spider-Man, but it is still a Spider-Man, and people go crazy for those guys. Yeah, he's got. I want one so bad. Once I get that, the rest will be easy to complete. But yeah, it's killing me. I don't have one. But anyway, moving on past that, marketing is something that we've been talking about for a while. The endless talk about what we should do to try to get more users. P. Diddy just got arrested. So if we're going to do any type of marketing, should we purposely exclude rappers or other professions where it's common to commit crimes or they glorify committing crimes? Or do we deal with anyone willing to deal with us because we need marketing? I feel like desperately, I feel like pretty badly. What are you guys thinking?
I don't. We should like. Look, the people who follow rappers, like in general, right? Like they're looking up to the rappers as like their idols and stuff. I don't think that most of those people are like truly into NFTs. Like I don't know. You know what I mean? Like and it's so that is definitely not the first place that I'd be going to spend marketing dollars. Like I mean, like rappers in general. Like no, like I don't think that that's a good use of funds at all. It's just like. The Venn diagram has to be like a sliver, you know what I mean? Of just like the same people who just like truly just idolize and follow rappers and are super into digital collectibles or collectibles as a whole and collecting things, you know? I don't think that's a very big overlap there.
You have the Snoop Dogg side of things, though.
We do. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, Snoop Dogg got really big into Web3 and got a lot of people into Web3 with him, right? So you got some aspects of it that could, and I think they just need to pick and choose the particular ones they want to get involved with. I don't think they necessarily need to go after a full category, but I don't know.
Well, but here's my question for you on that, Cosmo. Do you think that the majority of people who bought Snoop Dogg NFTs already knew about crypto and were already in that realm and then bought it, or that he truly onboarded a lot of non-crypto natives that were just like, I love Snoop Dogg so much that I have to figure out how to purchase this NFT.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a lot of crypto natives and then some of the fan base that wanted to jump in whatever he's doing, right?
So if you can already, without having to pay a super high price for someone like that rapper, like a Snoop Dogg caliber, right, and still get Web3 people like their attention there. Like, I just feel like there's other places that you could really, anyways, that's just my thought on it. But it's definitely, I hadn't thought about Snoop Dogg. That is a good point. And I'm sure that there were some people who did find out more about NFT.
He did it in secret at first. Like, he had collected, he had like a whole alias. And then one day, a few years ago, he's like, by the way, I am this person, like on his Snoop Dogg account. And everyone's like, what?
Well, he did something with Sandbox, right? Like that was like a big deal. Buying some land up in Sandbox or Decentraland or both. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Now that we have Turtle here, let's go over this real quick. The which we did before, Turtle. We didn't just save this until you got here. But there was only like 113 people. Now there are 450 people here. From Turtle Golf saying, was looking to do an OMI burning giveaway. Thinking it could work something like this. A live OMI burning bidding process in the chat for who would burn the most, and they would get Meta Brew beer delivered, US only. So basic bidding process, person who commits to sending the most OMI to the burn wallet gets beer. Let me know what y'all think. Turtle, you can comment, and we can do this obviously in the comments down below. And we'll be doing this for how many weeks?
6 weeks. 6 weeks. That the Golden Dragon Club is offering this utility on the OMI is My Homie show. So this is week 1. So listen, I'm just going to say this. I think that this is the first time. It's still not widely known. So someone might get a steal of a deal here for the OMI burns. So I don't know when you want to start that, but or if we're going to say, like, listen, start the bidding right now. Someone post that in and we'll be tracking, right, that bid.
Sweet. All right, moving on here. As we wait for that, bringing it back out to the macro here, because it all affects it. We've been talking about Bitcoin a lot earlier this stream, and we're talking about how much that could, whether we have a recession, basically Bitcoin, we all as a consensus here think it's going to go pretty crazy. But what about altcoins? I mean, you had a few that ran earlier this past year, over the last 8 to 10 months, but what about alts? Do they run with? Some will run with Bitcoin, and then obviously many will outperform. But what do you guys think? When does that go and take off? Does it go in tandem with Bitcoin, or does it happen a few months after?
Generally, what gets everyone's attention and money coming in, because the crypto market really blows up when you have new people bring in fresh new money. A lot of it, what's been happening is money moving around the ecosystem where you have existing crypto people sometimes putting in new money, and that can pump the market a little bit. Sometimes they just move around the money, and that can pump specific things while dumping other things. And you see a lot of that in the bear market. What really you see when the market really takes off is Bitcoin starts to head higher. Now, with that, sometimes some altcoins take off in a similar time frame. Like last bull run from the bear market, Bitcoin started to take off, and also Cardano ran fairly early. So that was one of my bets. And it was nice that it ran a lot earlier than some of my other stuff, which allowed me to take some profits on Cardano and just roll into some other things, getting further upside. One of the reasons I believe in diversity is that. But a lot of people right now, like that are in this audience, came into crypto sometime in the last 3 years, which means they've never been through this part of the bull run. This is all new territory for them, and they've never tracked bigger market cycles that they've invested in. So this is their first time being through this. This is why so many people wash out in the bear market, because they just don't understand how these things play out. Like, let me share this screen, and this gets used a lot to help educate people on market cycles and how they play. Randy, if you'll share that.
I got you, fam.
Fantastic. So this is the psychology of a market cycle. So this is where most people came into OMI and VeVe, and then they experienced this. And this is where everybody washes out during this depression phase. And, sometimes they wash out a little bit earlier, but they also continue washing out as prices start going up. Now, altcoins, the prices haven't really started going up on most things, but Bitcoin has. Bitcoin bottomed out at 14,000, and we're substantially above that. And Bitcoin usually leads the way. And so we're in this disbelief stage here. I like to use this upper right-hand corner because this is actually how it works. And it's not as perfectly smooth as this, but the general trend plays out very much like this. And so many people wash out in the trough here. They come in at the peak or somewhere just before the peak. They don't know enough to sell at the peak. And then they ride this roller coaster down and they just lose faith. They find reasons to believe that the price has been going down for so long, it's never going to turn around. And then it does. And for a while, they're in this disbelief stage. And that's why they miss out on so much of this early gains. Where you make the majority of your money is buying in this trough. And that's why I dollar cost average in this trough. And sometimes people say, oh my gosh, Rain, you're so dumb. You bought XYZ. You bought OMI at 0.001. And now it's way below that. And it's like, cool, because when you're buying in the trough, you don't know where the bottom is. You're just dollar cost averaging in. And then you take this ride up. And this is the ride up most people miss out on. What happens is a lot of people check out. Then they come back in somewhere near the late blue stage where it's early green. They buy in and they expect that they're going to continue this ride up for forever. And they once again get burned. This is why so many people actually get burned 2 cycles in a row. They're just missing the bigger point and they're doing things wrong. And when you do the wrong things, you have bad results. So Bitcoin is in the process of consolidating, and then the chances are highly likely that it breaks to the upside and it continues this bigger run, thereby bringing a lot more attention to the crypto space. And as attention is brought to the crypto space, everybody wants to get into it, and it creates really big green candles, which then brings even more people coming into the space. And it's going to be exciting. And then a lot of these people who are constantly fudding and freaking out and panicking and sharing that with everyone else, they're just going to check out because they won't even understand what's happening and why they were so wrong. And that's cool. They're just new at this. They're not bad people. They're just literally new at this. And just because they have a voice, sometimes people who are scared as well listen to those who are also scared. And that's a mistake I see a lot of people make. Cool. All right. Maybe, what I realized over time is investing isn't for everyone. I wish it was, but some people don't have the patience. They don't have the ability to make their own conclusions and to analyze things, to make their own decisions. And if you don't have the ability to do that, then investing isn't right for you. The crypto market, like the volatility is incredibly high. I love that because in a 4-year period, you can make such huge gains. But for those that don't have patience, it'll just wreck you.
Rage. So you were looking at that chart before, and obviously not everything runs at the same time, but you did have a few altcoins that had some pretty big gains this week. Would you consider that a fluke? Is this, like I said, like with VeVe NFTs, it's a giant powder keg and any one thing can set it off?
It's too early. It takes more than any one thing. It takes a combination of a lot of explosions to really get things going. So we had, like, if you saw the video earlier today with Paul, we reviewed some altcoins that had seen some massive momentum this last week. Now, is it an anomaly or is it showing the pattern? It's too early to tell. I don't know. It could be either of those, that just they'll take off and then they'll kind of come back, or they'll continue to break to the upside and really lead this bull run. So I don't know which of those two yet. It's too early.
Copy that. SoCal Omi Homie says he finally owns a full Bitcoin. Bags are packed, hibernating now, saying Definity is his best performer. Oh, you just wait, my man. You just wait. I feel like I've been dominating the question asking. Do y'all have any other things y'all wanted to go over? I love you sleeping. My day.
Let's see. Well, I'm thinking this, man. We're not getting some action on the OMI burn thing. I think that maybe we just hold off because, like, I want to get this some more exposure, and I don't think that we did it justice, right? So I think, like, what I think we should all do, because again, like, these guys are providing utility for us, and like it'd be awesome if we each did like a little video just like talking about what it is and posting that on our Twitter or our X accounts leading up to the next OMI is My Homie show, like next Wednesday, right? And trying to get that out so more people are aware of that, to make this like really worth it. And even if it's just people are just like, look, I'm going to burn more than what this is worth because like I just want to be a part of this, or like I don't know, right? But we're not getting that yet, so we're going to pause that because I feel like I want to make sure that it gets exposure that it deserves, and I really appreciate the community. And I see Emoji. I've been chatting with Emoji a little bit in the chat, right? Like I love these initiatives that the community is doing, and we need to support that, guys. As we sit there and talk about, it's just like, what is Ecomi going to do to help this utility and stuff? It's like we got people right now that are creating utility for it. Let's support that, right? Because I think as people see that support, then there's more people who are like, hey, well, what if I did this as well? And if the community rallies together to support the people who are actually trying to help us burn the token that we hold, let's do that, guys. Let's do that. So
yeah, let's we could put it on our socials next week, but a few hours before we go live. I feel like I didn't do that this time. I probably should do that though, and I'll put that in the announcement. And then
yeah,
go and do.
I'm going to make a video talking about it. Just post like a 30-second clip of like, hey, this is what's happening. Post it on my socials and like tie that, and then I'll be able to post it like a week leading up to that, and then kind of reshare that and talk about it so that it gets more exposure, so that people are aware of it for the next live stream.
Cosmo, you're on mute. You're on the mute. Oh,
yeah, so I've got a quick question for you guys that I'm just curious on your thoughts. But so often during this long trough of the bear market, we see projects just go quiet for big long stretches, and then they'll release something and it's like, oh, it's all exciting and things, and then people will look at projects that aren't releasing something at the current moment and they're like, oh, why aren't you more like that project or something like that, right? Not realizing that they also have their own stretches of just like quiet periods. And one of those is Bored Ape Yacht Club right now. Like they got an app that's releasing tomorrow for a game, essentially, that's just like for the masses. And they've been quiet on a number of things. They've done a couple of things like a Project Dragon play for some of their holders and things. But are there things that VeVe could be doing differently than what they're doing right now, apart from onboarding big brands and things that could enhance the experience right now during this down period? That's realistic and in line with the VeVe brand.
Yeah. I actually just talked about this the other day. I'll find it if you guys want to go first, and or I could just look at it. Give me T minus 20 seconds here. Just got to scroll back.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think. Like that's a great question, right? Like, what can VeVe be doing to just realistic?
I found it. It's so raising capital. No one sees this as an issue because VeVe has consistently grossed millions per month since 2021, and they're using those funds to hire more people and to grow. But imagine how much quicker they could grow and how much quicker they could scale if VeVe were to raise $50 to $100 million. David and Dan likely won't sell the company for a long time, but I think selling a piece of the company to Apple, Microsoft, or any other company close to $1 trillion that could afford it would benefit them greatly with trying to grow as a company. Then you have influencer marketing. I'm not talking about traditional marketing like Facebook or Instagram ads or Google AdWords. I'm talking actual influencers. So back when we had Logan Paul, Crypto R Us, and Ben Armstrong were talking about us all the time, we saw a huge influx of people. I'm not saying to get those guys again, but if you launch a referral code program where if anyone buys gems from the web app using your referral code, and then they use those gems in the store, you can get 3% of what they spent. Earth2 did that with a 5% referral code. They then upped it to 7.5%. And they sold nothing but tiles on a screen with nothing on them. And they made tens of millions of dollars doing so. If you have a referral code, influencers will market for you. You have Mr. Beast, who created a successful burger joint when the first burger was okay. Why? Because he had 1 billion followers. First chocolate bar he had was not good. I know, I tried it. How did it become the #1 chocolate bar in America? Because he had 1 billion followers. Why did Penn Gaming buy Barstool Sports? Because they needed content creators. Launching an ambassador program or buying a content creation company would probably be the most efficient way to do this. I think because influencers are more efficient at building and distributing to consumer goods. Reward them with a percentage of what is spent, and everyone, their sister, will be sharing their code, getting their followers to spend money. David Yu said he wanted hundreds of thousands of more active users in the next few years. I think this is how they get them. I'll try to be quick because I know Doc's got to bounce. You have Web3 influencers as well, pay them 50K to 100K, try to create what they did last cycle. You have a cheaper option where if you could hire someone to give someone on the team a budget of maybe 5K per month, and then they go to each and every member of every like meme community and say like, hey guys, we have X amount of tokens to give away to this community. It could be, you know, a couple $100 worth or $1,000 worth. And all they need to do to qualify is to download the VeVe app and buy one collectible. It doesn't have to be expensive. It could just be $1 comic, because the way VeVe goes and they talk about their active users, it's not about downloads. It's about how many of those active users have at least one collectible in their wallet. And if they do that for every single meme token out there, you can get hundreds, if not thousands of new users per month, even if it's just for that 1 month and then they never touch it again. But there's a decent chance that at least a few of them will probably check out the app. When you have a new drop, you could reach out to every single journalist that covered that character or license over the last few months and say like, hey, be advised, this character that you've been covering is having a drop on VeVe. Now, granted, you're going to have those people that are, you know, anti-NFT and cool. I feel like there's no such thing as bad exposure. But again, what Earth 2 is doing, I mentioned them before, is insane. They've delayed their metaverse for years now. They came out around the same time that VeVe did with their app, but everyone in the community is absolutely pumped for them. There's a little bit of FUD, sure, as in every product, but they release a teaser video of their engine rendering or gameplay every single month, and they get hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of views on each video. So these are some things that I think that would really help. Puddin', I hope you're still here. If not, send that to my collectibles or David or whatever. I think that's something that I know I just threw a lot at y'all, but let me know if what y'all think.
So Puddin' is still in the chat. I don't know if he's still listening, but I was able to tag him, or I could tag him, and I could only tag someone if they're in the chat there, right? But yeah. I just want to look. I've got to bounce here in a second, but I just want to piggyback off. To me, I think one of the and you hit on it, that affiliate marketing. I think that is one of the biggest things that VeVe could do, right? Like truly, because I think about this, right? With when people were buying gems or still are buying gems in the Apple App Store, that's a 30% hit that VeVe is paying right off the bat, right? However, if they just say, hey, Mark, like, and the thing is they can say you have to sign up for the affiliate program. We're only going to pick the people that we want, right? To be affiliates. But so they get to pick and choose who they want to be affiliates. And then there's like, for every person that you bring in, for any money that you bring in, that they purchase the gems through your link on the VeVe web app, right? Like you're going to get 3% of that. That is 90% cheaper than people purchasing it on the web, on the Apple App Store, right? And like that's when you get people working for VeVe, right? Because they're working for themselves. So they're going to be talking about it. We know of a major YouTuber with
hundreds of millions of OMI.
Is it no, but they have millions and millions of followers on their YouTube.
Oh yeah, 20 million easily.
And they're like, I'm waiting for an affiliate program. That's one person, right? And so to me, I'm surprised that that's not out there yet. Truly, like I don't know why that's not out there, and that why is that not a high priority? Because when we talk about like when new users, this is basically a free way. Like VeVe doesn't have to put up any money up front, right? They just sign this and then let the people get to work on it. And you better believe that they're going to be talking about, here's this IP with this character, all of these things. They're going to be covering that. Why? Because they benefit from it. So you're finding these synergies of just like you have mutually beneficial relationship there, where incentives are aligned correctly, where people are going to talk about these. And again, like whether it's the drops that they're talking about, I feel like that is one of the easiest ways to bring in new people. So anyways, everyone, I've got to bounce. I appreciate the chat. The one thing that Randy, I want to leave you guys with to discuss is I saw a lot of people who were pretty frustrated about the crafting event that happened, and they're just like, why can't why can't it be like, if there's a limited number, why can't it be like a wait list as well? Right. So it's randomly selected who gets to do that, as opposed to like the fastest person to show up the button or something where they have the lag. So I'd love for you guys to talk about that. I would have talked about it, but I've got to bounce now. So
thanks, Doc.
anyways, peace out, man.
Love you. Yeah. All right, man. My bad. Yeah. I think it's a good idea. Have it as a wait list, and then when you do that, this way you don't. Because I got frustrated on I forget what drop it was, the flower bomber. You know, bid 1 million points and then like put it in a wait list because I just got the error and I was like, the heck, man. The one thing I want to actually do on here, and I couldn't do it. What do y'all think?
Go ahead, Ring.
So I missed what he was talking about at the beginning when he said, when he was bringing up whatever word he used.
Oh, crafting.
Oh,
like have it be like a wait list for crafting instead of having to, spam the button.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't tried the crafting, so I haven't run into that problem. I haven't done the crafting since Thanos. So a lot of it is just what I found out with Thanos is often the inputs don't equal the outputs. If I had just sold all the things I used to craft for the Thanos secret rare around that time, I would have made a lot more than like ending up with a Thanos. So I haven't participated in any crafting since then. So yeah, the wait list makes sense on the crafting rather than spamming the button.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, honestly, because of the fact that when you've crafted for the very first time, I know I ran into it that I didn't know exactly how to do it. Like I didn't know what I was supposed to select, that you had to select the collectible and push it. Like it's a simple process once you figured it out. But that first time you just don't know what you don't know. And if that's your first crafting event and it's like a really big item like that, I mean, that's really frustrating to just kind of go through that and not know how to complete it. So wait list on the crafting would be great.
Yeah. So on the OMI side, we'll kind of end it with this. Jay sounds really beside himself, really sure of himself. So like when OMI doesn't recover, is Ryan going to keep chilling? How underwater can one person be? What are your percentages? He's obviously very sure of himself. He's thinking 100% that it won't. But what about you guys? What are the odds that you think that OMI does or does not recover? Give me a little.
The odds are 97% that it recovers.
Yeah, I think it's even higher than that, honestly, with the broad market. I think it has outstanding chances to recover.
Great.
It's okay, Jay. Take that bet. I'd say you're taking a 3% bet. Cool. Sometimes the 3% pays off.
Ooh, we got a 12,500 OMI getting burned. How much is that? This is for a case of beer. So 12,500 times 0.00. What are we at? 40. That's $5. Yeah, heck it. I'll do 13,000 OMI. That's my bid. 13,000 for I don't know how big the can. I don't know how much beer is going to fit in there, 4 or 6 cans or whatever. But yeah, I'll bid 13,000 OMI. Fight me, girl. Not you, Turtle. I love you. Jay said he'll take that bet. I don't know. What do you want to bet? 5K? 10K? Shoot me a DM. Let's do this.
Yeah, the challenge with that is like, he gets no upside if he like sells his OMI. He just gets to watch us all do well and then disappear later, right? Like, oh crap. Every once in a while, people are wrong and they'll be like, oh, I was wrong on that. And they'll upgrade their thinking and they'll be like, oh my gosh, okay, cool. Some things I didn't understand. But most of the time they just like silently go away. And that's just how when I came out in 2017, I thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This technology is going to change the world. Everyone that's here now is going to be rich.
Yeah.
No, 90% did rather poorly. Why? Because they stayed through the bull run. And then they sold when prices got savage in the bear market, and they left and they disappeared. And they didn't stick around to buy when everything was cheap. And many of them washed out, not right away, but they washed out later. And they just became disheartened. And all they could see was just red candles. And they're just like, oh, I'm done. I'm out. This sucks. And this is never going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And then things went absolutely crazy. And I don't know, I would argue with people about Cardano when everyone was fighting on Cardano, about Axie Infinity, about a lot of these projects. And guess what? I was right on those and they were wrong. And I got the massive upside and they disappeared, which is usually what happens.
Here's the thing I'll add to that is like Asian Dan and I were chatting it up a little earlier. And he asked me the question. He was like, so let me test out your belief on OMI or so. But like, let's say at the end of 2025, OMI has not pumped. What are you going to do? And I said, you know what? As long as the fundamentals are still strong, which I believe that they are very strong, they're onboarding huge IP. They are continuing to build. They seem to have financial runway, and the community, which are the three biggest things for me in any project is community, financial runway, and then building. So as long as they've got that, then honestly, I would do exactly what I did last cycle, is where I had 8 million OMI that I'd bought kind of in the summer of 2021. And I didn't know a lot about OMI at that time, but as the price pumped, I sold all of that OMI around like an average of that 0075 mark, right? And then I quietly waited for a couple of years as the bear market ensued and prices dropped significantly. And then as I saw VeVe in general continuing to build and build and build, I put 4 times more money than I did in the first bear market. And now I'm up to 170 million OMI, right? And so I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. But in the worst case scenario, it does not pump or so. And at the end of 2025, I'll just kind of repeat that process. And I would expect that the price would drop if the 4-year market cycle continues. And if I keep seeing them build like they've been doing, then I would just load up even more a couple of years later. That's how I'd handle it personally, not financial advice.
Great.
Yeah, a lot of people put these artificial timelines. Okay, if it doesn't hit by this date, I'm out. And it's like, that's just not how things work. So is there a 4-year cycle or is there not a 4-year cycle? And if there's a 4-year cycle, what if you sell it exactly 4 years? It happens at 4.2 years. Well, you waited all that time for nothing. Why are you putting these really short timelines on things? It's because a lot of people that come in the crypto market, they have no experience in other investment cycles. They don't realize how short this is. And for them, this short cycle seems way too long, and they're just acting emotionally rather than logically. And so that's why I stopped debating these people, because I realized it didn't matter what logic I laid out. They were in the emotional part of their brain of, I'm just exhausted. I'm just mad. Things haven't gone my way. It hasn't happened as soon as I want. So I'm just going to argue. And I'm not even going to listen to rational things because I'm just in my emotional brain, and logic has no part in this discussion. And so there was no point in discussing with them further. They're going to see logically how it does play out. And the odds are stacked really big that massive money is going to come in as Bitcoin breaks 100K. Then it's going to flow into the altcoins, probably digital collectibles. I don't see why it's not a narrative that goes absolutely crazy as it does. VeVe is the best positioned company in there. And then the OMI token absolutely goes up tremendously. And all these people that washed out and fudded, small percentage of them will stick around and be like, crap, I was wrong. But most will just like disappear into like focusing on other things, because as human beings, we don't like to look at the places where we're wrong, face up to that. Gosh, I just didn't understand the market cycles. And, these people that tried to explain it to me, they were right. And I just was new enough. I just didn't listen to them because I was emotional and I was sad and I was mad. And okay, now I've updated my thinking, and now I'm prepared to understand better for the future and actually do well at this investing thing. Cool. A lot of people, they're not good at investing because they can't get out of their emotional brain into their logic brain. Why? Because it's emotional. Watching prices not do what you want them to do day after day after day, week after week. It takes emotional maturity, and that comes through experience. Most people don't give themselves enough time to get the experience to become good at this.
Reach. Oh, gents, we've gone about a couple hours. This has been great. I would like to thank everyone, 500 plus people that are here. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. Until next time. Thank you to my
See you,
co-hosts,
everyone.
Thanks, you guys.
Meow, meow, Randy. Ending.